I would like to talk about the first tax return assignment. This may not be exactly the assignment that you have, depending on which class you are in and which semester it is, but this will give you the basic information to get started on a tax return assignment. So the instructions will tell you which schedules you need to prepare, and for the assignment that we're looking at on the screen, it's the 2019 Form 1040, Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule SE, and Forms 8814, one for Cindy and one for Bobby. Now be very careful that you check the year on the assignment sheet and also that you check the year on each of your forms. You can use IRS information, and I'm going to go to the IRS website here in just a minute and show you where to get some of that. But I would like to point out that there should never be pennies on a tax return. Use normal rounding rules. In other words, anything 50 cents or below will be rounded down. 51 cents and above is rounded up. Use normal rounding unless a form tells you to round otherwise. I do take off points if you show pennies, and I also take off points if you have a negative number on your tax return, unless the instructions call for a negative number. There are very few negative numbers on tax returns. You have to submit one PDF document with all of your returns in the correct order. The 1040 always goes first, and then after that, every form that you use and schedule that you use will have an attachment sequence number. Make sure that they are in the correct attachment sequence. Now, if you have Adobe, the full-blown Adobe, then you can do that very easily by combining files. And if you go into the computers on campus, you'll have access to that, but it defaults to Reader, so you'll have to go into that. There are other programs online that will let you do this. You can always print them out and then scan them back into one document. And as a last resort, you can take pictures of your documents. Just make sure that they're legible. You could fill these out by hand and take pictures and combine all of those pictures into one PDF file. You could paste those pictures into a Word document and then print that Word document to a PDF file. There are all sorts of ways you can get your answers into one PDF for me. If you have multiple files that you turn in, so I actually have to open up the 1040 and then open up Schedule 1 separately and open up Schedule 2 separately, I will reduce your grade by 20%. That increases my grading time tremendously. And so I ask for your cooperation in making sure that these are all one file. If you use fillable forms, be very careful, because very often if you use a fillable form and then you just save that and send it to me, I can't read it. You are going to have to, if you use fillable forms online, print them out and then scan them back in again. This is a very good reason for you to email me your work early so that I can pre-grade it for you. We want to make sure that I can read everything that you have in your tax return. The first tax return each semester is fairly simple and straightforward, and I give you some information that you can just put on various lines. There's not a lot of detail in these, so this is a very straightforward, simple return. Future tax returns will be more complicated than this, and the way that you approach any tax return is just to take one sentence, figure out what to do with that sentence. In this case, I'm going to put Mike and Carol's names on the Schedule 1040. I'm going to check off that they want a joint tax return. I'm going to highlight this sentence and I know I'm done with it. Then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to figure out what to do with the next sentence. Mike's social security number, I'm going to put that on the return. He's 45 years old. We don't need birth dates on the return, but this tells you that he is not old enough to get an additional deduction or anything. So that just is all you need with that, and then you continue on. And each sentence, if you take care of it and then highlight it off, then when everything is highlighted, you know that you are done with this return. And you can skip around. You don't necessarily have to do it in order. So we might jump down here and put in their address next. We might jump down here and put in their dependents next and come back. Let's go and look at the IRS website. Look at where you get those forms. So I'm going to just type in irs.gov, and that will bring me up to the IRS website. There is a link here for forms and instructions where you can find most of your forms. You can also search for things. So I suggested, for example, that you get Pub 17. You can just search for Pub 17, and this will bring up a list, and then you can either download it to read offline as a PDF, or you can read it online as an HTML. I tend to like my PDF forms, so I just copy this, and then I can open this up and I can look at this. Now note that this is the Pub 17 for preparing 2019 returns. You are also going to want to make sure that you have the correct year that matches the return that you're working on. There is a section in here for what's new. There is impact of new legislation, some reminders, an introduction. You can also come over here and open up the caret that'll expand the sections of Part 1, the income tax return. We have filing information. Do I have to file a return? And this is going to reiterate what we talked about in terms of whether or not you have to file. Where do I file? How do I file? Marital status, so who can claim single, who can claim married, filing joint, married, filing separately, head of household, etc. The rules on dependents are in here. The rules on withholding tax are in here. So you can expand this a lot and find the topics that you're looking for along the side as well. So Pub 17 is a very useful publication to have in your toolbox. We can go back to forms and instructions. We can find Form 1040. And there's going to be the Form 1040 is here. And so let me just open that up. And again, this is a fillable form, but it is problematic because you can fill it out, send it to me, and I can't see it. So if you're going to use the fillable form, print it out afterwards and scan it back in again. Either that or else just print the form and fill it out by hand, or print the form and then take pictures of it. Make sure that I can read what you put in here. Going back to the IRS website. Okay, here are the instructions. So we looked at the form, here are the instructions. And if I click on the instructions, it comes up as a PDF again. And again, I like using the PDFs, but you can also access this online. So here's my Form 1040. And if I click here for instructions, it's going to bring it up in HTML. If I click here, it'll download the PDF. So you can look at this online if you prefer. I prefer to use the PDF, so I'm going to open up my PDF file. So we have contents, and there are hyperlinks in the contents that you can click on, or you can use your navigation pane over here. There are line-by-line instructions here. So if we come into the line instructions for the 1040, we can just kind of scroll through here. And it starts out by telling us what our filing statuses are, our name, social security number. This is all part of the header. Whether or not you can take somebody as a child, and there's good, or as a qualifying relative. There are good flowcharts in here that you can use to decide if you can claim someone as a dependent. Then if you come all the way down and keep going in here, you're going to have information that is line specific. Line 1, line 2A, line 2B. So line by line instructions for this tax return. After all of the line by line instructions, you've got the tax table. And remember that you must use the tax table if your taxable income is less than $100,000. If it's more than $100,000, the tax tables don't go that high. And again, be sure that you are picking up the correct column, and be sure that you are picking up the correct row. So for example, if you are single, you would use this column. If your income was $27,050, it is going to be in this row, and your tax will be $3,055. And over $100,000, if I scroll down here to the bottom of these tables, it goes up to less than $100,000. So once your taxable income is $100,000 or over, you need to use the tax computation worksheet, and that is kind of like those tax rate tables that we used. Now, these are slightly different than the tax rate tables, but the math will work out the same. So you can go ahead and use these tables, or you can use the tax rate tables provided in the book. Either one will give you the same answer. This is a quick introduction to how to do a tax return. If you have more questions, either email me or come talk to me in my office hours. If I get a lot of the same questions, I may modify this video or I may add additional instructional videos. Thank you.